Story Corner, presented by Jennifer. Bella Sarah. Book 1, Bella's Gift. Chapter 9. Ask again, Ivina hissed. Who helped you summon her here? Jillian knew at once Ivina was speaking of Bella. Connell must have been successful on his journey. Now he and Bella had returned to the castle. Jillian sat, captive in Ivina's private chambers, staring back in silence. She would never tell that Connell had helped her. You really are a foolish child, with your little dreams and doodles. Ivina's tone softened slightly, and an evil smile danced across her lips. I had such high hopes for you all those years ago. Jillian's mind raced. Play dumb, don't give anything away, let her think she has the upper hand. Yes, my darling, Ivina continued, I know all about your little drawings, all those memories, all those creatures. I've been looking at your journal for years. How else would I know which of your little friends to expect at the castle, and how best to capture them and use them to serve me? Oh, don't worry, your precious book is safe. In fact, here it is. Ivina pulled the small midnight blue leather journal from her cloak and threw it on the ground in front of Jillian. The book landed with a thud, tumbling open to the page with the drawing of the otter. Jillian's heart tightened in her chest. I'm curious, Ivina purred. As the wolf rider gazed at her, Jillian felt uncomfortable, like a mouse in the gaze of a hungry cat. Did you really believe that your precious journal came from that ragtag gypsy family of yours? As if they could give you something so magical and marvelous. They could barely put clothes on your back. A lump grew in Jillian's throat. She felt her eyes well up with tears. Her family? All these years she had yearned for some connection, some memory, some dream of them. Stop, Jillian cried. Don't you dare speak of them. Still pining for the past, are you? Ivina said. You should be grateful that I rescued you from that bunch of worthless fools. I had heard of your ability to communicate with animals. People say that even as a baby, wherever you went, magical creatures would follow. But your family didn't know what to do with you. They would never have accepted your special talents the way I have. You see, I had the magic journal and quill, but they wouldn't work for me. No, the magic requires someone of pure heart, someone who was open to the goodness in magical creatures. Someone like you. I did you a favor by taking away from those worthless gypsies. Jillian gasped. The painful truth washed over her. Her family had not abandoned her as Ivina had always said. Instead, Ivina had stolen her away from them and used her to call magical creatures to the castle. Images of the happy life she could have had flashed through her mind. Jillian's heart was breaking for all that she had lost. But as strong as that feeling was, the fierce new resolve that burned inside her. She glared at Ivina defiantly. Ivina had stolen her from her family, but she would steal no more. Just then a howl tore through the walls of the castle, shaking its very stones. Ivina jerked her head around. Her eyes narrowed. "That's Malfoy," she whispered. "The battle has begun." Whipping her head back, the Wolf Rider stared at Jillian, her eyes blazing with fury. She pointed a bony finger towards the blank page in the notebook. If you didn't use your notebook to summon that creature, then someone else must have brought her here. I will find out who, and you will both pay." Ivina grabbed Jillian roughly by the arm. "Now come with me." Jillian reached down to snatch the notebook as she rose, but when her fingers made contact with the soft, worn leather, she felt Ivina's nails dig into the flesh of her arms. "I'll be taking that," Ivina said. Reluctantly, Jillian surrendered the journal. Ivina thrust the book back into the folds of her cloak, yanking Jillian towards the door of the chamber with her other hand. "Let go of me," Jillian protested, trying to pull free from Ivina's grasp. "There's no use fighting, you stupid child," Ivina said. "I'm going to put you somewhere you won't be found. Then I'm going to defend my castle against unwelcomed guests." Jillian stared at Ivina. Ivina gave her a cruel smile. "Oh, don't worry, child. You won't miss out on the action. You'll have a perfect view of Malfoy and me destroying your new friend Bella." Jillian stood helplessly, gazing out the turret windows in the courtyard below. It was complete chaos. Wolves and wolf cubs ran this way and that, snarling and growling. 2 magnificent horses, a large black stallion and a blazing red mare, lunged at the wolves from 2 sides, corralling them in one section of the courtyard. "Oh, the horses," Jillian whispered. "They're so beautiful." Another horse approached, a rich reddish-brown with a dark mane and glowing gems studding its muzzle. It was just as beautiful as the other 2. Aboard the red-brown horse were magical creatures of all kinds. Bubble turtles, pipsqueaks, longtails, tassel mice. Jillian could scarcely believe her eyes. Her magical friends were being rescued. Jillian searched the crowd for Connell. "Fuzzyfoot, where are you?" she murmured. Just then a huge black wolf appeared below her. He stalked to the center of the courtyard, teeth bared, snarling. Malfoy. He let out a deep, angry growl, a challenge. Malfoy's opponent came into view, a majestic white horse surrounded by a cloud of soft, glowing light. Jillian gasped. "Bella!" Here was the mysterious horse from her visions, right before her very eyes. Malfoy howled and attacked. Jillian's heart pounded. She could barely watch. Bella evaded Malfoy's lunge, showing no fear. Again and again, Malfoy was repelled, as if the white light around the great mare could not be penetrated. Then Ivina stepped into the courtyard behind Malfoy, her cape billowing a black trail in her wake. The weak daylight seemed to dim even further as she raised her metal staff. Even from high above, Jillian could see the rage coming from her mistress. Suddenly, a beam of bright light shot forth from the gloom. It hit Ivina, and she stumbled, blinded by the light. There, across the courtyard, stood the Starstone Otter Queen, sending a white-hot beam at Ivina from the blue stone around her neck. Jillian's heart leapt. The beautiful creature she had befriended was free from her stone prison. The black stallion stomped at the ground and sent a shock of lightning towards the disorientated Ivina. The lightning bolt hit Ivina's staff, sending bolts of electricity through Ivina's body. Ivina dropped her staff and collapsed to the ground in a daze. The red mare, joined quickly by the black stallion, kept the other wolves at bay while the brown horse shuttled the last of the magical creatures to safety beyond the courtyard walls. The star-stoned otter queen scurried to Bella and leapt onto her back. Bella galloped swiftly across the courtyard. Poised on Bella's back, the otter looked even more regal than the first day Jillian had seen her. The horses began to retreat beyond the courtyard wall just as Ivina picked herself up from the ground. Fiercely clutching her staff, she aimed it at the horses and sent flashes of piercing hot light in their direction. But Bella spread her white light into a protective shield around her friends. Under Bella's protective orb, Bella and the Starstone Otter Queen led the way out into the open grass of the castle grounds. Jillian had long imagined the day her magical friends would escape Jilly had long imagined the day when her magical friends would be captive no longer. Now it was here. If only she was among them. With the magical creatures now safe from Ivina and her wolves, the great black stallion reared up, turning his attention to Malfoy. Thunder's massive hooves struck the stone beneath him, sending sparks exploding all around. Malfoy snarled viciously in response. He was poised, ready to leap. Just as Malfoy lunged, the black stallion struck the ground again. A bolt of lightning shot out directly at the huge wolf's face. Yelping, Malfoy stumbled and pawed at his eyes. The stallion shot another bolt towards the approaching Ivina, sending her body soaring into the castle wall. Then the stallion cantered away. Ivina rose slowly and unsteadily to her feet. She threw her fists in the air, furious. Jillian ran across the room to the opposite window of the turret, overlooking the grounds and forest beyond. The black stallion had joined the other horses outside the castle. They stood for a moment, majestic amid a swarm of magical creatures. As they turned to gallop off, Bella cast a glance in the direction of the turret. Jillian felt a warm glow as their eyes connected. "Don't worry," she said softly. "I'll be all right." Jillian wanted to believe her own words, but as she watched the horses grow smaller and smaller in the distance, she couldn't help but feel completely alone.